Hi there, I'm Becky Hammond, host of this Isogo TV podcast, and we blog and podcast over at isogostrong.com. Welcome to episode 131. This is the third in a 5-part series where fellow Leaders Who Give a Damn program leader Murray Guest and I get to walk with you as your virtual coach through the 2021 Success Map. Now, so far we've talked about growth mindset, we've talked about reflecting on 2020, no matter how traumatic that might feel. And now, today, we are going to talk about setting goals. So based on what you took away from 2020 and what you want to achieve in 2021, what are some realistic goals, exciting goals, maybe even stretch goals that you can make in not only your leadership, but in every area of your life? So we are going to be referencing page 3 from the Success Map 2021. If you don't have that yet, you can grab that over at leaderswhogiveadamn.com/successmap2021. And like I said, we will be diving into page 3 and walking through each of the prompts and the questions on that page during this next conversation. So I'm looking forward to walking this next step, this middle step of the journey with you as you look for that success, that happiness, that vision of what you want 2021 to be like. So let's dive into those goals.
All right. Hello, Murray. Welcome back to chatting about success in 2021.
Welcome to this conversation on goal clarity. This is our third conversation in this series, Becky. I am looking forward to it. I think goals are something that I'm getting better at doing, and this process has definitely helped me, and I'm looking forward to stepping through it with you in this conversation. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, me too. Now we've reflected on the ups and downs. So we've kind of established, like, why is it important that we reflect? Because this growth mindset is so important. And then what are some practical ways that we can do that? So if you're using the Success Map 2021 from Leaders Who Give a Damn, you can walk right along with us throughout these conversations. We will just kind of serve as your virtual coaches of asking the questions that we would ask if we were to sit down with leaders person to person and going through this. So if you don't have that yet, you can find it at leaderswhogiveadamn.com/successmap2021. So make sure to grab that. So today we're talking, as Murray said, about goal clarity. And so we are moving into page 3 of that success map. And on there, you're going to see there are 4 different boxes. Yes, page 3. There are 4 different boxes there that kind of give you some general categories that you might consider as you're thinking about setting your goals. We were chatting just before this about, is it important to establish why goal setting is important? It kind of feels maybe like a little bit more of a given these days, but where you were pointing out, there's some just really great research around the why. And so what are some of the just quick things of why people remind us, why do we know that goal setting is important?
Well, it's a great point, Becky. I think we can make some assumptions about the understanding we might have about the power of goal setting. But what we do know from research is that when we do set goals, people achieve more. They actually achieve the things in the parts of the life that they're aiming to achieve. The research shows they actually are happier and healthier as well, because we've got that momentum, we've got that sense of well-being, we've got that self-assurance that's developing, and the self-esteem that goes with that as well. And the other part is setting goals that are within reach, but also being clear on some of those stretch goals at the same time. So we're building some momentum because we're getting those wins, and like you said in our last conversation, celebrate those wins, and at the same time, let's stretch ourselves as well. So from a why point of view, we actually feel a lot more motivated and energetic as well, because you're actually going to, attack life or approach life in a much more positive way as well.
Cool. Yeah, I love it.
And I just want to say, you mentioned those 4 boxes on page 3 of the form, and they are general. They are specifically general.
Specifically general.
Specifically general, or let's say intentionally general.
Intentionally general.
To help people with some guidance and leaders in this goal setting process to identify some areas you might consider. But the bit I want to add in here is if there's an area you really want to achieve a goal in before the end of 2021, write it in on that sheet, make sure you capture it as well. Don't think that's limiting you and where you want to have those goals. For example, when we talk about health, we might be talking about mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical health. Could be any of those.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So I have to ask you, why does health make this thing? So we're talking about pretty much our lead as leaders. What are the goals that we want to achieve? There's certainly going to be some very specific business or career oriented things. Potentially there's something regarding kind of a financial goal that we want to meet. But why does health make this list?
Well, I think if anyone listens to you and I, Becky, talk, they know that health is something that we know is extremely important.
Yeah.
You can't show up and serve others. You can't show up and be the best leader you can be, whether it's a leader of an organization you're working in or a leader of your own family, whatever it might be, if you're not looking after yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
Your vehicle isn't going to run if you don't put fuel in it. So you need to put fuel in that body as well. And that fuel is mental, emotional, physical, spiritual as well. And again, reflecting on our previous conversation, that's been a big lesson again for myself and a lot of people in 2020 about we do need to look after ourselves to deal with the ups and downs of life. So 100% health has to be in there in some form.
Yeah. The conversation I was having with a leader just a few weeks ago comes to mind as I think about the importance of health. So I think even as leaders, if you're here joining us walking through this, you're probably not thinking, oh, health doesn't matter. But it's hard to give sometimes it's hard to give it its weight. And there was a leader that I was working with who was going through some pretty significant health tests that had potentially very difficult news attached with them. And that stress showed up everywhere. She did miss a call with me. That was like the first thing, like, this is very unusual. This coaching client is usually right here, and she didn't. And so it was like, oh yeah, well, and then just, a long explanation and not excuses, but just like, yeah, this is going on. Instead of addressing it, diving into work more severely. And then she shared that there was some serious relationship stress at home as well. And all of that, because not even for an actual health issue, but for a potential health issue. And so to me, that just drove home the importance of adding health and wellness and specific goals around it, not just like, oh, give priority to that, but really specific goals around how we're showing up in our physical, emotional, mental bodies.
And I can't give the owner of this quote because I can't remember it right now. Becky, you might know, but the one that's sticking out right now is self-care isn't selfish.
Yep.
Where that was a great example there with that leader you're working with, where we can get in our busyness of life and forget about looking after ourselves. But that investment in our own self-care, in our own health and well-being is so important, and it's not selfish. By doing that, that's going to enable you to show up and serve other people. It's so important.
Right.
And I've seen it play out over the years with different leaders, and the leaders that do it best are looking after themselves, and they're setting that example for those people around them, those people that they lead, and they are then showing up to be the best leader they can because they are looking after themselves.
Yeah.
And so when you are looking at your health goals for 2021, as Becky was just saying, get really clear. What does it look like? What does success look like for you at the end of 2021? How would you measure that? What does it look like? What does it feel like? And be realistic. If you want to run a marathon, but you've never ran before, for? Is that going to be realistic? It may be, it may not. You know, you got to take into account where you are in your well-being. For me, I'm going to touch my toes. I haven't touched my toes since I was 2 years old.
Yeah. You mean with your legs bent?
With you know, but it's about, you know, what does that look like? And then we're going to talk in our next conversation about then getting clear on some actions to work towards those goals. But let's be really clear. What do those goals look like? And then what are some practices to help you get towards those goals? So those 4 areas, again, that we mentioned that we see as key is your well-being and health, your personal relationships, or that personal part of your life. And those relationships might be friends, might be family. It could actually be relationships within your work field as well, because relationships are so key. And we talk about that in the Leaders Who Give a Damn program. We also have finance and wealth. And I know from all the leaders I've worked with over the years that finance is one of those stresses that we have in day-to-day life. Yeah. So we want to get some clarity in that one. And then the first one actually on the page, we go around in that circle, is your career, your business. So if you're a business owner, you know, where do you want to be at the end of 2021? If you're an employee, if you're a leader within an organization or a business, it might be, where do I want to get to in my career? Is there a change? Is there a leveling up? Is there a new role you want? But take some time out and articulate what that looks like for you.
And how specific of language do you feel like is most helpful? Like, it comes to my mind that maybe, you know, it's easy for me to say, okay, I want to do better, you know, use words like better and more, and you know, I want to make more this year than I did last year, or I want to you know, be healthier. What do you recommend, or what's most helpful when you're kind of filling out these boxes?
So yeah, it's a really good question, because I think the easy thing is to be very high level and very sort of broad in that description, like be healthy or be smarter because I've read a book or something. I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't help you. You want those goals to be SMART in that SMART framework, which is an acronym of specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So this process of getting real clarity in your goals is meeting that. You can't measure something that's not specific.
Sure.
So if we want to improve our well-being, or we want to actually a change in our career, and if we write down a new job, you know, what can we do with that, Becky? We can't, you know, well, is that really, or I'm happier in my job? Like, what does that look like? What's happening? So get really clear. So it might be, I have a new leadership position where I'm leading a project team.
Right.
Yeah. And
that's the definition for you of happier, like happier in my job, or more fulfilled in my job. That, oh yeah, okay. That would be, I would think I would feel more fulfilled in my job if this specific thing was achieved.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Or if, you know, in the finance category, there might be something that you're writing down that's along the lines of, I have more money. And you could have $1 more at the end of 2021, or you could have $10,000 more, or $100,000 more. But if you actually might have a more specific goal, like, I have paid off my mortgage $50,000, or I have saved X amount of dollars for a holiday in 2022, or I have paid off my credit card debt of $10,000. So getting really clear, because once you've got that clarity in that goal, you've now got 12 months to work towards that, and we can start to chunk it down into achievable steps to achieve that goal.
Okay, that just kind of all became clear. Goal clarity for me as well here. Cool. And then there are some questions at the bottom of that page that can kind of help guide that process. One of the ones I loved the most was, what does success look and feel like? So there, it kind of pairs with that question. Those two questions before is like, how do I know I've been successful? How do I measure my success? But then also, not just that's the goal, like, but what does it feel like, so that we can take that into our action steps and motivate us to get out of bed early in the morning, or motivate us to not go out to eat that night because we know that we're saving towards that 2022 vacation, or
Yeah.
whatever those little incremental steps will be, because we need to know we are not as rational as we are. The research out of Gallup says that most of our decisions, 70% of the weight in our decisions, is actually what it feels like, the more of the
Mm.
irrational aspects of it. And so if we don't know what it's going to feel like at the end, then we don't know, then we won't have the motivation to get
Yeah.
to that goal, especially if it feels like a really big goal.
Yeah, and you might think something around here around, oh, well, I feel more comfortable in my clothes because I feel healthier, or
Mm,
I feel more engaged in my job.
mm,
Okay, so what does that look like? How are you doing that? And then again, we want to chunk that down to what are the steps to work towards
mm,
that looking like. I feel more connected with my partner, my life partner. Okay, so what does that look like, and what are you doing, and what are some steps you do along the way to achieve that as well?
mm.
And I totally agree that there's the numbers, which are important in measuring our goals
Right,
and getting that clarity, but what does it
right,
feel like? Because
right.
those feelings are so important. I did buy a car in the last couple of years, and I remember I did all the research on YouTube. I watched too many videos of medium SUVs and all of their performance, but not until I sat in the car did I say,
Mm,
this is the one for me. I sat in a couple and I went, no. And Tammy and I sat in the car and said, no, this is the one. And it was that
you,
feeling. And yeah. So
yeah,
let's
you can
get
see
clarity.
yourself, you can see yourself doing it, and you're in a happier place, even if it's right there in the seat of your car.
Can I just say, you've raised a really good point here about visualization. So in helping
Mm,
you get clarity in those goals, take that time out with your favorite beverage. It might be a cup of tea, a coffee, water, juice, whatever it might be. Sit down, or one glass of wine. Sit down,
I was gonna say, I think you've missed a key category.
but sit down, close your eyes, and visualize what that success looks or feels
Mm,
like.
yeah,
And if you can visualize it, then you can start to articulate it, then you can start to write it down, then you can start to get that clarity. And you might want to percolate on this for a little bit and sort of
yeah,
come back to it a couple of times. But then, and of course, once you get that in place, these goals at the end of 2021, you can revisit those. And we really encourage you to revisit those as you go along,
yeah,
because you've put them out there, but keep visualizing them and seeing those. And we'll talk about some ways to actually bring them to life too.
yeah. Okay, so I love this idea of envisioning and
Mm,
visioning what it is that you want the end of 2021 to look like, how you're feeling, what you're doing, who you're with. Um, you are really, really good at that because you have high futuristic strength. Let's say you're working with somebody else that doesn't have that strength. I'm not going to mention any names, except for pointing to myself. Um, it strikes me that it's an amazing opportunity for partnerships, and we're going to, in a couple other conversations down, we're going to talk about accountability and partnership. And
yeah.
this one feels like a place for that, where I can say, okay, I kind of want to do this, and then somebody with talents like yours, or like my husband's, or other strategic thinkers or futuristic thinkers, can help us think about, okay, so then how are you feeling, what would be different about you if you
Mm,
do achieve those goals. And so if you are a much more kind of linear, or I don't know, practical thinker, then you might want to partner with somebody who can really cast a vision, and who can vision like that.
Yeah, and that partner might be your life partner, or another partner you might have. It might be a work colleague. It could be someone
Right,
in your team. It could be someone in your network. It could be a friend. But it's someone that you can talk this through with, that is going to bring a perspective different to yours, and it's going to help you see that different perspective to then work towards your goal and
right.
how you're going to get there. So I've got a couple of friends, and we have great conversations around our goal setting. My wife and I have some, I would say, complementary strengths that really
Mm,
help. Tammy's high in activator, like how you're going to take action on that, where I'm thinking about the future. So they
mm,
work really well together. But think about those people in your life. Like Becky, you talked about it so beautifully then about that you can partner with to really help you do that.
Yeah.
And what I want to say here is then to help you do that, and you've got that on this piece of paper, you've got that written down, you want to make it visual for you as a reminder. So what we did a few years ago was buy some of those chalk writers, the chalk markers, and we write our goals on our mirror in our bathroom. So when you get up in the morning and you're washing your face and you're brushing your teeth, and before you go to bed, you're seeing those goals on the mirror, whatever that might be. And so we turn those over because they're smaller goals we've chunked down. You might want to put them on your mirror, on your fridge, on the screen, on your laptop, on your phone, or you might want to create a vision board with pictures that really capture what you're working towards as well. And I've done a vision board a number of times over the years, and it's been really powerful to really help me get clarity about, okay, what am I working towards? What does that look like? What does that feel like?
Cool. I love that. I love also how that gets to answering the question of, what if I'm just not a goals person? Like, what if it just doesn't feel natural for me to like write out that specific, number goal and say like, I'm not going to be happy unless I have this one thing. So I think it frees that type of visioning and maybe having a creative space for goal planning instead of a analytical space for goal planning really helps with people who are just like, man, I don't know, like if I plan, it feels more confining for some people to plan a goal, to say like, oh, if I am trying to go towards this, what if I miss out on all these other opportunities that are happening around me? I think of the Clifton Strength, the talent theme of adaptability, of people who lead with high adaptability. Oftentimes that's not their thing. I was coaching a young leader who just felt a lot of freedom from understanding, oh, I have adaptability strength, and then could look back even in his short career so far and say like, well, if I would have had like a very specific goal, I might not have even met this neighbor who introduced me to this person, who introduced me to this person, who finally let me in the door, right? So I think the why of goal planning, like we talked about at the beginning, is very clear. People who set goals are more likely to have that feeling of success at the end, to achieve their success. It doesn't necessarily mean that things can't shift mid-course. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it in this very structured or linear way. It can be in pictures. It can be on massive whiteboards. It can look different for different people. How we set the goals could look different.
And I just will jump in there, Becky, and say something that I've seen people do really well that's worked for them too is a Pinterest board, where Pinterest board of here is, in a digital environment, here are the pictures that represent what success looks like for me in 2021. And I'm just starting to collect pictures of holidays or parts of finance or my health or relationships or my career, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And they're just capturing all those pictures there. And that's what success looks like. And I'm getting clarity in that, and I'm working towards that. And just to top that off, a leader I worked with, what they would do every year is write a letter to themselves from the end of the year.
Interesting. Okay. So they are themselves, but they're thinking of themselves a year from now, and they're writing a letter to themselves now saying, this is how I feel. This is how I've achieved.
Spot on. Yeah.
Cool.
Powerful. Takes a bit of time, but again, it's one of those processes that works for some people. And this one worked beautifully for this leader, where she would get absolute clarity in what success looks like, because she's putting herself in the future and writing it down back to herself 12 months earlier of, this is what I've achieved and this is how I got there. And it was such a powerful process.
Wow. I love that. Well, if you leaders do that with this page 3 of the success map, then you are like A++, because that is an amazing way to envision what it will be like at the end of this year when you have achieved some of these things that you get to jot down on page 3 here.
So if anyone is forming some vision boards, or they're putting together some pictures, or they want to share any of this goal setting process, of course, please let Becky and I know, tag us on social media. we'd love to see it. It inspires us, and it's going to inspire other
Completely.
people as well to see that. So yeah, look forward to seeing some of those.
Cool. Yeah. And if you don't have the success map yet, you can find that at leaderswhogiveadamn.com/success map 2021, or you can just go over to the homepage there and there's a resources tab where you can grab that. That's a free download for you. And we are excited that we've been able to be your virtual coaches to walk you through some of this. And so if there are still questions that you have about any of these pages or any of these steps or questions along that are asked in the success map along the way, please do reach out to us. You can connect with either of us by DMing us on Instagram or on LinkedIn. And you can find us by emailing us at hello@leaderswhogiveadamn.com. So we are available at any of those places and would love to hear from you. And even if you're questioning different parts of the process, we would love to kind of get your insight and help you walk along the process as well.
Thank you, Becky. This was so good. This inspires me, these conversations, and thinking about, and obviously feeding my futuristic strength about success in 2021. And we don't know what 2021 is going to look like. But what I do know is if we get clarity in where we're working towards with whatever does come at us in 2021, we'll be able to respond better because we know where we're going. So I want everyone to consider that and look forward to talking to you in our next conversation about taking action and kicking off 2021 with success. Thanks again,
Wonderful.
Becky.
Yeah, thanks, Murray. Bye.
All right, there you have it. That is the third page and now the third of 5 steps in this series about the 2021 success map. Today, all about setting those goals, and not just in one part of your life, not just in what you consider the leadership part of your life, but in every area of your life where you want to have success, where you want to have joy, where you want to have hope. Setting specific goals, man, that is going to be where the launching point of that success that you're looking for. So next week, we get to take those goals and turn them into action. And I'm not just talking about action for the entire year, but what is something that we can do tomorrow, the next day, the first quarter, even on a daily basis that can help you feel like those goals are really achievable. They're really within your grasp. So make sure that if you haven't already, you grab that Success Map 2021. It's a free PDF download. You can get that at leaderswhogiveadamn.com/successmap 2021. And we look forward to walking along this process with you, continuing in that as we talk about taking action next week here on Isogo TV. In the meantime, if you are looking just kind of for that like itching next step of growth, or if you've always been curious about what it would be like to work with a coach, but you haven't really wanted to invest all the money in what that might look like, I would love to help you see what coaching could do. So we have a product, an e-coaching series that's called Strength Startup. And what it does is it helps you and I engage over email for 6 weeks about each of your top 5 strengths, including action that you get to take and consider and reflect every week about how those strengths might actually be showing up in your life and how you might be able to leverage them to walk more towards growth, to walk more towards the vision of who you hope you are and how you want to live and what you want your life to be. So you can explore more about that over at isogostrong.com/strengthstartup. And because you and I are chatting here on this podcast today, I want to make sure that you have access to $5 off of that Strength Startup program. So you can use a promo code, and that is Virtual Coach 5. That's Virtual Coach, all in caps, and then the number 5 for $5 off the Strength Startup e-coaching program. Thank you for joining us here on Isogo TV today, where we are coming together to try to make relationships easier. And not by asking, what the heck is wrong with that person that I live with or that I work with, but rather by asking, what's right with them? What is strong about them and what's strong about me, and how can we use those things to work better together? So the world really needs your strengths. Love them, live them, and learn them. Until next time on Isogo TV.